Hey folks, Kobi Tirey here. Unfortunately, I was just too sick to get this week's episode done on time, but podcasting is one of those things where it's better to show up with something than nothing. So here's the first couple of minutes, and we'll have the full episode out by this weekend. Thank you.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning.
Are you expecting a recession this year?
I hate to predict things like that. There is a period of transition. It takes a little time.
Welcome to Is It Bad for the Economy, the podcast where we explore whether Trump's policies are helping, hurting, or just a load of hot air when it comes to the economy. I'm Democratic media consultant Kobi Tirey. I'm trying to figure out how the Democratic Party can finally get the credit it deserves for its performance on economics for basically my whole lifetime. And I'm joined by the anonymous financial practitioner, Banker Bill. Let's start off where we left off last week. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has been talking about doubling down on Argentina and increasing the bailout to $40 billion. When you look into it, the second $20 billion is supposed to come from sovereign wealth funds and other private investors. I guess that's better than it being our own taxpayer dollars, but why is our Treasury Secretary basically leading an investment round for Argentina?
I mean, we covered it last time. They're trying to buy political will, political capital. They see Milei as an ally, as someone who they're on the international stage may be connected to or married to in some way. And then the other component that we touched on in our prior episode was the financial investments that are there since his election, potentially trying to backstop those investments. Argentina has significant issues. We covered them. All this extra money, it's not necessarily going to help unless the Argentines are willing to do, and including the Milei government is willing to do what it takes to improve their own lot. But not much has changed, except you're now saying another 20 billion is going to come in. And they might need more money. They might need even more money because to defend the peso, it's not, I don't think it's going to work. They're going to have to let the peso float freely eventually. And that's going to mean in the short term, higher prices by way of currency devaluation for the Argentines. There's no way around it.
Something that I noticed was that once again, the wording was very ambiguous. It seemed to indicate it had already happened. It was actually even ambiguous as to whether we were spending that money or whether Bessent was finding that money from other people. Was he just juicing confidence into this Argentina play in the first place? Is he actually going to go look for this money as far as you know?
I don't know, but I definitely think in the beginning, him using his office to help generate some confidence in the economy in Argentina is exactly what he was doing. And I think that's reasonable. It's not beyond, he's not allowed to do that. Regardless of what you think about the Milei government, Argentina has been a pretty good ally to the United States for a while. There's plenty of Argentines living in the United States. The money that they want to use for this, let's just call it a bailout, because it's kind of, in practice, for practical purposes, that is what it is. But they're using, this exchange stability mechanism. But the risk for the administration here with this is that people perceive it as a bailout for a foreign nation as the United States executes trade policy that's hurting certain domestic industries.
It just seems like a lot of time spent on Argentina for a guy who's already wearing multiple hats.
I agree.
Meanwhile, the farmers still haven't gotten their bailout, and with the government shut down, it is not looking good. The Supreme Court has figured out how to give this administration the power to shut down government departments, how to lay people off, and how to redistribute funds without any additional congressional allocation. But the one thing that's eluded them is the power to spend money all on their own, especially if it's revenue like the tariffs. I still can't believe they didn't find a way to bail the farmers out before they bailed out Argentina. Is there any good news for them on the market side? Have there been any sales to China since our last episode?
No, not that I've seen. And the reason why I think it was easier for them to make this Argentina investment, let's call it backstop, bailout, whatever, versus the farmer, let's call it a farm bill, is because this stability fund basically falls directly under the purview of the United States Treasury. And Bessent can do not necessarily whatever he wants with it per se, but he has a lot of power over it. Versus with this, maybe a farm bill, it's probably going to take congressional approval, right? So that would take some time.
No, I think that's exactly right. This is just about the powers that Congress has already given Trump versus the powers it hasn't gotten around to giving Trump yet. And with the government shut down, that's probably going to take some time. We really zoomed in on soybeans in the last episode, but China followed that up by locking down its rare earth minerals, and Trump even seemed surprised that China's escalating the trade war now. You've made the point this entire year that during Trump's first term and so far during this one, China's been extremely disciplined about playing the long game and not getting suckered into the tit for tat. Why are they playing hardball now?
Let's go back to the Liberation Day tariff announcement from April 2nd. When that was announced, the U.S. stock market dropped 13% before Trump rolled back the initial Liberation Day tariff numbers with a series of pauses, obfuscations. We're going to have discussions, whatever. This rollback told the Chinese exactly where Trump's, he's our president, where our red line is, which is a falling stock market. Trump bluffed, and that backfired because now the Chinese know as far as he's willing to go. This is, in my opinion, what's allowing the Chinese to play tough. Notwithstanding, China has their own issues, which if you want me to get into, but first our own. It seems that they believe ultimately it will be Trump desperate for a deal and that their current stance is a rollback all the way back to the way things were pre-Trump 1.0, right? So they want to go back to basically pre-2016. So they're taking now a maximalist position. And they're saying, unless you're willing to talk about that, there's nothing for us to further talk about. You may recall that they had these meetings in Switzerland. I think they had meetings in Norway or the UK or something where there were commitments made. China didn't own up to any of that. They're not going to. We've talked about this. My view is there's no deal to be had with China. They're a bad actor. They cheat actively and passively. They have not and will not live up to any previously agreed obligations. And it seems that those in the administration have still not come to this realization, or if they have, they're too weak or too aloof to execute a strategy based on this view. And so China can play tough, right? They're a one-party state. They see this administration is not building coalitions, whether it's domestically or abroad, that they're preoccupied with the happenings in the Middle East or elsewhere. And China is the top trading partner for over 120 countries in the world, whereas the US is the top partner for about 30 countries. Trade runs the world. Trade is power. And while Chinese exports over the last year, from September 2025 versus September 2024, fell 27%, China's worldwide total exports, including the US, actually grew 8% over that same period. So while the US is decoupling from China, they're not making a dent to actually hurt China overall because their exports are actually going up relative to last year. To touch on what China's problems are, that's basically all they've got, Kobe, is the exports. China has significant deflation. China has low aggregate demand. Okay, these are not problems that we have in the United States. Why are prices deflating in China? Because they have too much supply. And they're trying to export that supply at all and dump it onto other countries. And their own people domestically aren't buying it. That's causing prices to fall. When prices fall, people don't want to start their businesses and compete. That creates an economic drag. So China does have issues here, but we're not, from my perspective, what we've done here with this trade spat, we're not doing a whole lot to, really force them to the table.
Politically, I think this is really interesting and really challenging because, of course, we all know it's just true. Trump's success has been predicated on the fact that for years and years and years, we've even felt economically that China cheats and that it really feels like they're getting a lot more out of these deals than we are. And so, of course, Trump coming in and saying, well, we're going to start cheating, that's not irrational. That makes a lot of sense. Of course, you have to take that political position seriously, given everything that's happened since the Clinton administration. But I think we're learning now in real time. The answer is not less free trade. The answer is really great, stable, everybody's following the rules, free trade with everybody but China. And then we use that economic leverage to finally beat China into actually doing what's right.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I've been pushing since the very beginning, Kobe, right? Since March. China's making calculated decisions here. They see American unemployment rising. They see growth in the United States slowing. They see the United States relationships with longstanding allies fracturing. They see midterm elections coming in 12 months. They see our answer to their actions is a bailout, which is not a credible response over time. So unless something changes, we're headed to a scenario in which China wins the trade war, indisputably.
Economically, absolute ironclad case. Politically, it gets funky. And I think this is why. It's because the answer to China cheating is not less free trade. It's more strategic free trade. And it's free trade that's driven by national interest as much as they are by corporate lobbyists writing everything for the politicians.
Sure. I mean, look, you say free trade, that makes people feel a certain type of way, right? That's kind of falling out of favor. People don't like that. It's globalist, yada, yada, yada. Let me just make a simple, practical position that I think people can understand. Okay. You get all NATO countries in a room. You say, we are going to set tariffs, all trade barriers for all NATO countries, including the United States, to zero so long as we all agree we are going to set a tariff on China of ABCD across whatever you want. If you want to do it against sector, certain products, or just a total gross tariff of 10%, 20%, 30%, whatever it is, right? And get everybody moving in the same direction. Not saying that, okay, we're going to put a 30% tariff on China, we're going to put in a 15%, whatever it is, I don't even know the numbers at this point, tariff on Canada. But by the way, 85% of Canada's goods are actually tariff-free and complicating all this stuff and everything else. Right? That's not going to work. You need a cohesive strategy that is also simple enough for a coalition of allies to execute. That's all I'm saying. That's what I'm calling for.
Ironically, you're calling for us to fight our trade wars the way that we've fought all of our military wars, at least in modern history.
Sure. That's what this is. Right? I mean, with all China, we don't even have to get into it, but all the stuff China does with the economic espionage, the predatory dumping in different countries of the world, right? It is economic warfare. And it has to stop. And the only way we're going to get out in front of this is the administration has done a good job recognizing, pointing out that this is a problem, but they are not executing a strategy, in my opinion, to solve it.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning.
Are you expecting a recession this year?
I hate to predict things like that. There is a period of transition. It takes a little time